Hello everybody and welcome to my first video, which consists in the Mineral Moon Mosaic tutorial for PixInsight. In this case, I'll be using 6 different panels of the moon, which are this, and I will be merging them into a single frame, which then I will process in order to make it a proper mineral moon. Even if in this tutorial I won't be covering the capturing of this data, I do have some important tips about it. So when you are doing a mosaic, you will be taking several panels, either 4 or 6 like in my case, or maybe 2. If the moon is close to the horizon, it normally looks a little bit reddish or yellowish depending on the time of the night. So when you're recording new panels over time, the color of the moon will change. So if you take all 6 panels in 20 or 25 minutes, then the latest panel will be wider than the first ones, and that's really hard to fix. So my recommendation is to only take the panels once the moon is above in the sky, so it looks white to the plain eye, and that way the color won't be an issue. That being said, I'll explain that all these images were taken from videos. They were stacked using AutoStacker and Registax, and this is what I got: 6 different images in DIF formats. So well, I'll start with it. I'll give a brief explanation of what all of this is. These are the processes that we'll be using during the session. They are already pre-configured, and I will go through each one of them when the moment comes. What I'll be doing first is creating a template of the mosaic. Basically, I will merge all 6 images in one single image of the moon, and I will use this to register the images. This first version will have some errors in the boundaries between the different panels, but once they're registered, we're going to use this other process that's going to merge them a lot more smoothly. And from there, I will first make a process for the RGB part of the image, another one for the luminance, and then I will merge both into a single mineral moon image. So well, let's start. I'll start first merging the panel number 1 and panel number 6 in their overlapping zones. So we will be around here. So I'll open this process. I'm going to set number 1 as the reference, and it's very important that it is configured as in here. We're going to use register union. All these parts are empty because they are not being used. However, for star detection, these are the settings that work for me. Of course, it will be different if the image is more or less brighter, so maybe people would need to tweak this a little bit more, but this is working for my case. This is the star matching settings. It's important that this is selected because we will be using previews to show the process where they are overlapping. That will increase our success chances. And finally, for interpolation, this is what I use. So first, I'm going to select the preview of the part that is overlapping between the 2 images. So it will be this part for panel number 6, and this part, I think, for panel number 1, correct. Now I'm going to apply the process from number 1 to number 6. This might take a few minutes, so what I will be doing is that each time I have to apply it, I'm going to forward the videos to make it quicker, and so I'll see you in a couple of minutes when the first part is done. Okay, so there we have our first merge. In this case, it's 1 and 6. Looks very good. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to minimize this since I won't be using it for a long time, at least until all images are done. Now we're going to use this as the new reference image. I'll select it, and now we're going to merge that with number 2. So again, I'm going to use the previews to select only the part when they are overlapping, which will be something like this. And this. And now I will apply that here. Again, I'm going to forward to not make this video extremely long. Okay, so the third panel is added. We can remove the previous one. I'll just remove the previous because they're really awkward later. Okay, so now I'm going to select this one instead as the new preference, and now I'm going to apply it to panel number 3. Again, I'm going to use previews for it and continue for the rest of the panels until we have the final image. So after that, we finally have our template. As you can see, it's not perfect. We have some details. However, they will be fixed later when we do the merges in this process. In any case, now we're going to use this second version of the star alignment. In this case, we're going to use as a single reference the last mosaic, which is the template. And I'll show you how this is configured. So in this case, it's a register. It's not a new in. As you can see, all of this is empty. Star detection. These are the settings that work for me. They might be slightly different if the image is brighter or less brighter. It's depending on each of you, but you can always tweak it. Same for star matching, where it is very important to have the restriction previews enabled, and of course interpolation. So I'm going to start with the panel number 1, which is this. I am going to select the preview, that in this case is going to go more or less from here to here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer to reality, the less probable that we will have an error. And I'll just apply this. This process will take less time than the previous ones. However, I'm going to fast forward through it. After generating each of the registered images, I'm going to save them because the next process cannot act on images already open. They have to be saved as a file. So you will see that I'm going to save each one of them after their process and go to the next one. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, so now we have all of our images here. I'll just save the last one and close everything because we don't need this anymore. Now we're going to merge them all in a single image. We're going to add the files, which are in here. These are all the files that we generated that are already registered, and these are the parameters by default. I always find that these parameters work very well for Moon at least. When I do mosaics of nebula or something like that, it might be necessary to change it because sometimes the border of one panel and another panel have a bright stars very close and I create weird artifacts. But for Moon mosaics, this works. If not, you can always increase the shrink radio or the feather radio and change the average to overlay. Sometimes overlay get rid of artifact a little bit better, but then maybe the border is not as smooth as usual, so you just have to try and error until you get what you want. So I'm going to apply all. This normally only takes a couple of seconds, so I'm still going to forward and see you in a moment. Okay, so here we have the mosaic properly set. The next step will be to process it in order to actually make it a mineral moon. For this, we are going to take two paths in parallel, one for luminance and one for RGB. And so my first step is going to be to extract the luminance. I'm going to rename it L to keep everything in order. I'm going to process that later. And this one I'm going to split it into RGB. I'll remove the original one because I don't care about that anymore. And what I'm gonna do next is to make all the channels aligned. In order to know how to align them, I like to open statistics and analyze each of them separately using the median. So in this case, the median for the blue channel is 0.373, for the green channel is 367, and for the red channel is 377. In this case, the blue channel is the one in the middle, so that's the one I'm going to use as a reference. You can also use the highest or the lowest. However, I feel that sometimes there are higher chances of cropping some pixels if you do that using the higher or the lowest, so I prefer to use the one in the middle, but some people use another one, so as you prefer. I'll select Mosaic B and I'm going to apply it to G and to R. After this is done, I'm just going to remerge all the channels so I can have a proper RGB image. For that, I'm going to use channel combination. I'll be selecting the images, apply global, sorry. So we have all RGB image. I'll rename it like that and I'll start working on it. So for this one, I want to increase the coloring of the moon so you can actually see as mineral moon. For this, I'm going to mainly be using curvature transformation and histogram transformation. First, curvature transformation, since all the contrast is going to be done in the luminance part, then here I'm only going to focus on saturation. As you can see, if I move this and I'm being very aggressive, you will see that the coloring started to come. However, I don't like doing that in a single movement because it might create some weird artifacts. So instead, I'll do it step by step. So I'm gonna go to the first square for this, and also for CIL, I'm going to apply it again, not that much to avoid weird artifacts. I'm just going to do it 1/3 of what I was originally doing for saturation, and I'm going to apply this more than once. So once already looks better, so I'm going to apply it a second time, and now already the third one looks weird, so I'm going to decrease it significantly and see how it looks. Okay, so I think this amount is enough. We can keep the color without making it extreme. Now the moon looks, in my opinion, a little bit blue. I'm going to confirm this using the histogram transformation. I'm going to select it, and as you can see, the blue channel is a bit over the other two channels. So I'm going to correct that using SCNR for blue. I think using it for 100% is too aggressive because it's not that bluish. I'm going to upload it just in 50% and see how it looks. Okay, so after applying, it looks better. Actually, the blue channel is between the red and green channel, so that's nice. However, I still think that it is too green in some parts, and well, that the moon is not green. So I'm going to apply also SCNR for the green channel, but in this case, since it is not that extreme, just 25%, and see how it looks. Okay, that's better. The histogram did not change that significantly, but I can see that the moon looks a lot better. So for now, I'm going to keep it like that, and I'm going to focus now in the luminance. For luminance, I'm going to use first. I'm going to make it sharper, like increase the focus. I'm going to apply it on 50%. So this is once, and I'm going to apply it again at 50%. If I do it one more time, then it will look really weird if I zoom up, so I'm going to keep it like that. Then I want to apply a local contrast. However, since I already have some part of the moons that are very, very bright, I don't want to blow them up. So I'm going to create a mask using range selection that will allow me to protect the brightest parts. So I'm going to slide until I only have the brightest part selected, which is more or less here. I'm going to add some smoothness, and I'm going to generate the mask. I'll apply the mask, hide it, and now I'm going to use local contrast. For local contrast, if I use 100%, it will be too much. It will look horrible, to be honest. So I normally apply it in just 10%. The size of what is the local area is what is the kernel radius. So I like to apply it in several levels. So I'll apply it once for 128. Then I will apply it again for a smaller radius. And for 64, actually, I want to apply it twice because I think that makes it look a lot better. And then I'll apply it one more time for just 32. And there we have it. So now I'm going to give it a last punch, just using the curve transformation. I'm going to keep the mask on because I don't want to blow up the brightest parts. So I'm going to go to RGB, I'm going to decrease the shadows, keep the mid-range, and increase the lights. Just a little bit. Here the light is S sharp. As you can see, it makes the lava oceans a lot more dark. It looks better. So I'll apply this once, and maybe a second time a little bit less aggressive. Okay, I'll close it. I'll remove the mask, and now I'm going to merge both. For that, I'm going to use LRGB combination just for the L channel, and I am going to apply it to the color. This will be very quick, and we will have our final version. I'm going to close the mask since we're not going to use it anymore, along with the L channel. So to finish it, I am just going to check curves combination again. Maybe I can add a little bit more of contrast, but really low. Just this here, and I don't want anything to blow up, so I'll keep this. And I'm just going to add a little bit of saturation that is lost due to the merge. So here and here, just slightly. You can see that it looks a little bit better, but without blowing up anything. So I'll just apply it. The last step, which is the easiest one, is just to crop it. So I am going to crop like this. I want to keep it as a perfect square. So I'll apply, and this is it. This is a mosaic of the Mirial Moon. So, well, thank you very much for joining this tutorial. I hope it was really helpful for you. If it was, please click the like button and follow me on my Instagram account, where I have this same picture already posted with a lot more of our things. If you have any comments how to improve this, just write in the comments. So thank you very much. Have a good and clear night.